I think very much so. I think looking at some of the curricula of the countries at the national level, that schools are encouraged to deal with conflict. But often this is at the level of personal conflict resolution skills rather than examining recent conflicts in their own countries. Many countries will, some countries will actually almost forbid that. Turkey, genocide, Rwanda, genocide. Countries will say, no, we're not going there and schools shouldn't touch it. Elsewhere, I think teachers are uneasy about talking about recent conflict for fear of stirring up ethnic tensions, racism. They don't feel qualified, it's a controversial issue, so they prefer to stay at the interpersonal level of kids getting on together rather than learning about the causes of recent conflicts in their own countries. So for all sorts of reasons, I think it doesn't happen in the way that even national curricula say should happen. So it's a question of teacher training as well as an encouragement to confront the past. Both. Social media, of course, is the new, not so new now, but one of the key ways in which young people are communicating. And so what I think should happen is that schools in their formal, informal curricula should be aware of that and working with young people in terms of how the social media portrays conflict, how conflict groups, how extremist groups are using social media to persuade young people to join them. And schools have a responsibility to protect, to make children safe, to make them resilient to extremist messages. And therefore, you've got to put those two things together, and part of the curriculum should be media literacy. Problem is, of course, young people know far more about social media than their teachers do, and so it's got to be a mutual exercise of exploring what's happening there and enabling young people to gain more skills in being critical of what they read and what they use. I think this is crucial. What we're learning from everything from the Arab Spring onwards is that horizontal networking is the way forward, that young people and social movements are increasingly happening horizontally and not from top-down leadership. So we need to understand how that works. And I think the informal learning that goes on can be helped in the school by enabling young people to think about the real political skills they can use. A lot of informal work is just Facebook, Twitter, young people are just communicating. But if you want to turn that into a social movement, then you're going to need the old-fashioned political skills of campaigning and networking and lobbying and fundraising and budgeting and so on. And these are the sorts of skills I think schools could help with and help to practice. So informally, again, a lot of good citizenship education is community work, going out into the community projects. Doesn't matter quite what, as long as young people are engaged in thinking about improvements in their community, whether it's safety or knife crime or even just the environment and litter and so on, but that young people get into the habit of saying, we can make change, we can network together to create change. And that's, I think, one of the things that's happening increasingly and is a good way forward. To claim there's been a normative disintegration is to say that there's been some normative platform initially, and although there's been Council of Europe and various bodies that have done that, and human rights and so on, I wouldn't see a particular disintegration of that. Coming from England, I find that young people in England don't see themselves as European citizens, and in that sense you might say that it's disintegrated, but I'm not sure they ever felt integrated into Europe anyway, in spite of all the European projects. Much more emphasis these days on global citizenship generally. But I think most of the research I find is that young people are more activists, they're more interested in human rights than before. So although the EU itself, some of the critiques saying they're not acting in any sort of moral responsibility to, for example, challenge countries that appear to be acting autocratically or irresponsibly. as far as young people are concerned, I don't think they are any less moral than they ever were. Quite the opposite. They tend to be more active now than some years back.